Hello guys, MonkeyBot here, and today we're going to be talking about the next legendary lord in the Shadow of Change DLC, the Jade Dragon Yuan Bow. So very similar to my Changeling video, I'm going to be talking about his gameplay mechanics and what I think about them. I'm also going to see how he affects Immortal Empire's campaign, even when controlled by the AI. But to start off with, I want to talk about Yuan Bow himself, and it's not going to be the hype video like the Changeling was. I'm not so excited about this this legendary lord. I'm a little bit disappointed, so we'll get right into it. I think the biggest disappointment with the Jade Dragon to start off with it's the fact that he's just another dragon child. Like I would have liked to have seen something different, maybe some sort of high military leader or the Monkey King, or even like anything else, just not another dragon child. I feel like on the battlefield he's going to feel like the exact same way as Miao Ying and Zhao Ming. He's going to be a pain to deal with in dragon form, and he's just the only difference that I can see really is that he's just got a different set of magic. Other than that, I feel like he's going to feel the exact same way, and to me that's just such a disappointment. There's not many legendary lord clones in this game. Like every single faction has a different legendary lord that fits another purpose, but Cathay, we've now just got 3 dragons that have magic, and it's a little bit disappointing to me. Now that we've got Yuan Bow out of the way, let's move on to his gameplay mechanics. So we'll start with the Matters of State mechanic. Again, like it's a very basic mechanic. Like it's just click and get a buff. Like there's not really much to it to me. Like I like the resources. I like the switching between stone and iron. It kind of brings that yin and yang. You can't just pick the same buffs every single time. There are some interesting buffs here. Like we know we can upgrade your tier 3 settlement to a fortress, whatever that means. We got very little information on what a fortress really does for the settlement. There's another one where you can steal a neutral army, which could be cool in certain situations, but personally I don't even use the borrow army mechanic through allies. I don't even use it as the Warriors of Chaos very often. Like it's not something, the army has to be in the right place at the right time and be good enough, and you have all of these things to like buy the army. So the fact that you take the resource out could be interesting. It's very situational. The borrow army is cool, but I don't know. And we're just going to have to see what the rest of the buffs do. To be honest, it's very difficult to really predict these kind of things because they're all just click a button and get a buff. Or get an ability. It's just kind of a bit basic to me, and I was hoping for something a little bit more interesting, something that would actually like engage Cathay with the rest of the world. He is meant to be the diplomatic dragon that does diplomacy with the entire world, and there's not really much going with that. I would have liked to have seen a mechanic where like the entire of Cathay increases relationships with certain factions, like you are going in to do diplomacy with the Empire, and all of Cathay's relationships with the Empire would increase or decrease or anything, just manipulate the relationships between Cathay and the rest of the world. But I don't see any of that here, and it's kind of a bit of a shame. Like there's nothing to do with diplomacy here. There's one mechanic to do with diplomacy, and that is the trade mechanic, which they've just stolen from the High Elves, where you trade and you gain vision. That's cool. That's like, okay, yeah, fine. I can get more trade partners. Whoop-de-doo, yay. But I don't tend to have the resources to sell much anyway. And to start with, you're only really going to get that in Cathay. You're not going to get that with the rest of the world until you get those caravans out there, until you see what's going on in the world. So eventually with the caravans and the trade mechanic, you will be able to see quite a large portion of the map, and maybe you can do diplomacy that way, but it's just gain vision and just know about your enemy. There's not actual mechanic that can influence diplomacy. I know there's one mechanic where you can reset your diplomacy to very high, so you could do whatever you want to them. You could stab them in the back and then reset their diplomacy to relationships to very high. But that just seems a bit cheap. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to steal your settlement and then be like, hey, we're good friends again. I'm like, I don't think, even in like the Warhammer world, I don't think Karl Francis is going to be like, oh no, you just took Altdorf. Yay, we're best friends. Like, it's a little bit cheap. It's a little bit unrealistic, even for the Warhammer world itself. Moving on to the second gameplay mechanic, Empower the Compass, which again is just taking the most boring aspect of Cathay, which was the compass, and just point and click and get a passive buff. Like, it does help your campaign, it does improve your settlements, but it's just a click and forget mechanic again. And even the way you gain these 4 new abilities, you have to go out and you have to capture the same settlements over and over and over again. So it's a boring mechanic, and to unlock better buffs, you have to go and capture the same settlements again. It doesn't matter whether it's in Mortal Empires or in the Realms of Chaos. The settlements are going to be the same that you have to capture. So you're going out to do the same objectives to get buffs that don't really matter. There's one buff that I thought was quite cool, which was, I'm not sure if it's part of the compass or the first mechanic, but there was one that, like, for every region that you owned, your Lord recruit rank increased by 1 or something along those lines, or the Lord rank increased based on the amount of regions you owned. That one seems quite interesting. So then when you get up to, let's say, 50 settlements, every Lord you're going to recruit from that point would be rank 50, which is nice. It really does help you in the late game. Like, if you lose an army and you have to recruit a basic level 1 Lord, it's not very good. Like, it struggles so much in the late game. So that the fact that you can recruit these level 50 Lords, even though the Lords themselves for Cathay aren't that powerful, maybe the new Lord might be good. We'll see. But that's it. It's just another click a button, get a passive mechanic. And again, it's the most boring mechanic, which was, to me, the compass, just given more passive things for you to click on. And it's, yeah, again, it just doesn't excite me. I'm definitely leaning towards the Changeling for my first playthrough, because Yuan Bow, he just feels like the FLC Lord, which they've removed as an FLC and just placed inside of a Lord pack. That's really the feeling I get from this. So let's talk about Yuan Bow, and let's talk about his start position and how that can change the campaign. So I've actually got 2 start positions to talk about for Immortal Empires. So at least this gives me a little bit more hope that he might be a bit more interesting. We're going to talk about the Cathay start position first. This is the most boring one out of the 2. So I think, because Cathay is so empty right now, there's not a lot going on. It's just Cathay. The only 2 big bads you've got are Snitch and Loki of Felheart, who normally roll over early game, but later on the 2 dragon siblings always take over and win. So adding Yuan Bow to the equation is just going to make it more difficult for Snitch and Loki of Felheart to get any ground going and have its chance of winning over Cathay. So it's just confirmed to me that Cathay is always going to win Cathay now. There's no threat to Cathay. There's nothing that anyone can do. The Great Bastion rarely falls. Snitch will probably get wiped out in about 50 turns. Loki of Felheart will soon fall after that. And Nakai, being a horde, has just never been a threat anyway. He's going to get a bit of ground. He's going to run into Yuan Bow. He's going to kill him once and the faction's dead. So that's Cathay, really. I don't think Cathay's going to change much. I still think Cathay is going to win. So we'll move on to the Lustria start now. And I also want to point out, I really hope the AI Yuan Bow also has a settlement in Lustria. I don't want him to have the Altharion treatment where he starts in the Badlands and Ulthuan, but when he's played by the AI, he only starts in Ulthuan. I want Yuan Bow to have both of these settlements going, so he can create 2 empires, one in Cathay and then the other in Lustria. The start position in Lustria is a lot more interesting to me. A lot of things could happen. So now that Yuan Bow is starting in Lustria, he could really help out Marcus Wolfheart in the war against the Lizardmen, because Yuan Bow is probably going to have diplomatic penalties against Lizardmen, siding him with Marcus Wolfheart, and then it really depends on Alberic and which side he's going to join. Is he going to side with the Hunt Marshal and Yuan Bow, or is he going to side with the Lizardmen? And that then is the deciding factor of Lustria. I think this is the first time in a long time where the Lizardmen could lose Lustria. Like, the Lizardmen has always held on to Lustria. It's their home country. So many Lizardmen are there, but with Yuan Bow in the mix, and you've got all of these destruction factions around, I think this is the first time where the Lizardmen could lose Lustria, and that could change so much. I think it balances Lustria out a little bit more, and it's about 50-50 now on whether it will be the Lizardmen that win or the rebellious Order faction would win. Maybe Yuan Bow could add so much chaos where the two Order factions are just fighting each other, and then maybe even Skrulk might take over, because Skrulk is just left in the shadows to do his own thing, and he's just taking everyone's settlement while they're weak. Like, this kind of changes up Lustria a lot, to be honest. But again, it really depends if CA allows Yuan Bow to have that settlement in Lustria, even when controlled by the AI. So that's it with Yuan Bow. That's my thoughts and opinions. I'm sorry it's probably not as hyped as the Changeling. I still feel like the Changeling is going to be my first playthrough out of the first two. We'll see how the Hag Queen comes along next week. I'll obviously make the final video with the Hag Queen and give my thoughts and opinions again. So if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Feel free to have a conversation in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Let me know what you're excited about. If you're excited, let me know what you're disappointed about. Maybe I've missed something. Maybe there's really something that's so awesome and I just can't see it. And if you've seen it, let me know, and maybe I can change my mind about this. But for right now, Yuan Bow is a little bit of a disappointment to me. So again, thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week with the Hag Queen. Bye for now.